the rotunda. But I think, again, very significant as you look at that dignified transfer that we just saw in front of the Navy Memorial, a place that signifies his connection with the Naval Academy and the Navy.
And John, we also want to mention here in the notes that we received as a media agency that this horse-drawn caisson in this funeral procession here is designed to mirror Carter's inaugural parade, where he and his family famously walked on foot from the U.S. Capitol to the White House. That was back in 1977. So that's just an extra layer of significance to the ceremony that we're watching today.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. That was really the first time that had happened. And so now this is, I would say that this is bookending a life wonderfully lived as you look at not just the honor guard, but the family, all who are able following that caisson up Pennsylvania Avenue. One of the things that was very special this morning, you asked earlier, about what does this mean to the midshipmen that were there. And we had a chance to speak to one young lady, and she talked to the fact that her father had been a midshipman at the U.S. Naval Academy when President Carter was inaugurated, and he marched in the inaugural parade following the inauguration. So how special is it for her to be involved in the ceremony that marks how we will do our final honors for the president?
We're getting ready to hand over coverage to our colleagues here, John, and I know that you have, along with so many of people in the Navy and volunteers, but so many midshipmen and just career people in the military have been working for this moment. It is happening now. We'll give you about 30, 40 seconds here for your final thoughts on this moment and what it has meant to the Navy.
I think that what I would want to reflect on, and it's not just the Navy, and it's not just the Naval Academy, but I think that we as a nation, when we look at our citizens, what we all aspire to are the kind of traits that President Carter said the Naval Academy and the Navy started him off with: courage, self-sacrifice, idealism, self-discipline. He was relentless. He was dedicated. He tried to do things that made a difference. And he was ready to work many times with people that might not have agreed to him. So as you look down now at your Navy Memorial, I just think that it's an incredible honor for us to have been involved here. I would invite all to come and to see more about President Carter's life that we'll be playing in the theater, to look at some of the artifacts that we have, to sign the condolence book. And if you can't make it this time, please come to your Navy Memorial some other time.
John, thank you so much for being with us today on the coverage. President Carter certainly lived a model life, that's for sure.
2 hours that we've been in continuing coverage here of this final goodbye, remembering the 39th President, Jimmy Carter. Marissa, it has been an honor to carry this coverage with you here. A girl from Georgia who knows none better than what this legacy means now in Washington, D.C. We continue our coverage right now with Angie and Shamari, remembering Jimmy Carter.
Yes, thank you so much, everybody. Yes, remembering who many have claimed in the history books already so far to be the greatest former president that America has ever had.
And a former president who never gave up on his humble beginnings. That's what really resonates with me.
From a peanut farmer, as we know, to a military man, to a statesman, to a humanitarian that would go on to win the Nobel Prize, Peace Prize. We'll have more of the procession, the funeral of the late Jimmy Carter on the U.S. Capitol steps, coming up with a live report from our Tom Fitzgerald. But first, we do want to begin with the other big story right here in the DMV, and we are talking about the weather once again, because we once again got another dumping of that snow during yesterday's
regarding schools
winter
as
storm.
well.
Yeah, so we're talking about up to 10 inches of snowfall in some parts of the region.
I know, and it's the thing about it is we have several schools and businesses still closed today. In Montgomery County Public Schools just announcing that they will be closed tomorrow for a third day in a row.
Yeah, this is crews all across our region trying to clear those icy roads. We got some slushy sidewalks, those secondary roads also. Some people, they still can't even get out of their house. I heard this morning from one of the ladies that I know. She said it was still too icy for her to drive.
Yeah.
So we had that refreeze overnight, made for pretty hazardous conditions, right? A recipe for disaster for some people. Maryland also reporting...
What, 260 crashes?
Yeah, the numbers coming in so far.
Just yesterday.
Was just yesterday, right? Virginia State Police responding to more than 50 collisions across the state of Virginia. D.C. still under, by the way, a cold weather emergency. We know that shelters are in place to assist those. They're doing, they've mobilized their vans to go around and look for people that might need warm shelter. And we do have team coverage once again for you this evening. And
this continues as cleanup gets underway. Our Bob Barnard is in Silver Spring and Tisha Lewis is in Loudoun, Virginia. But let's start first with Caitlin Roth with a look at the forecast. Caitlin?
Yeah, Shamari and Angie, nice to see that sun shining today as the snow has been long gone for hours, but the impact's now rolling into Wednesday, a third day.
Wore the shades and it helped with all that blowing snow outside.
Right.
It really did. I mean, that
yes.
was what it helped with. Not so much with the cold, though.
No, it doesn't. I know.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do about that. The cold really locks in the snow and the ice. So unfortunately, we remain in the deep freeze, not just again today and tonight, but really through the rest of the week and into the weekend. If you missed it from earlier this morning, final snow totals from Monday's storm, 7.2 inches at Reagan National. That's the biggest storm we've seen since 2019, and it's our third biggest of the decade, the past 10 years. So you have to go back to prior to 2015 when you're talking about these storms and how they stack up. Dulles, 5.1 inches, BWI, 6.6. Both Dulles and BWI daily record snowfall records for Monday. 35 degrees at Reagan right now, mostly sunny skies. Winds are out of the northwest at 13 miles an hour, but gusts higher than 25. So yes, not only does that wind make it colder, it's going to blow that snow right in your face if you're not careful. Still a lot of snow on the ground and a lot of icy, slushy patches out there as temperatures struggle to even get above freezing across much of the area. Just a few degrees above here, but those wind chills obviously make it feel even colder. It feels like 26 in the district, some teens to the north and west. But radar is very quiet, so we're thankful that at least we've got some dry days ahead. Cold, though. Evening planner shows we quickly slip to the freezing mark by 6 p.m., some freezing by 8 p.m. and overnight tonight, low temperatures in the teens and low 20s, very similar to what we saw this morning. Another cold one tomorrow. In fact, you can take a couple degrees off that high temperature due to some cloud cover rolling in and a reinforcing shot of colder air. It is a stubborn cold pattern, meaning it will be very tough to move out. We'll talk about how long it lasts coming up in my 7-day. Angie?
All right. Thank you, Caitlin. We'll check back in with you in a minute. But people who live across northern Virginia saying that their neighborhoods remain covered in snow. By most accounts, we're told plow trucks have come through at least once, but people say it's still not enough. Fox 5's Tisha Lewis joins us live from Lorton this afternoon with more. So what's the word, Tisha? What are you hearing? What are you seeing?
Well, this is just one of several neighborhoods blanketed in snow. You can see the roadway. And in fact, that plow truck right there down the street, that's the first one we've seen since we've been here. Again, this is one of several neighborhoods across the Commonwealth trying to navigate snow blanketed streets, and they're not alone. There's plenty of fun to be had, but let's talk about the serious business. Residents here tell us that they saw a plow truck yesterday and they hadn't seen one since we hadn't either since we got here, except for that one. And they say that may not be enough. More might be needed.
They came by once yesterday to plow. They haven't been back by since the snowfall last night, though. So I don't know if we'll be able to get out tomorrow morning for work. So we'll see. Hopefully they come back.
She hoped they came back, and we did just see one pass by. But again, it's a tale of three stories. Road conditions depend on where you are driving. Highways and major roadways are clear for the most part. Residential areas are hit or miss. The residents we spoke with all say they saw a plow truck work its way through the neighborhood yesterday, but they hadn't seen one since aside from the one we just saw. The Virginia Department of Transportation telling us as of early this morning they still had more than 2,700 pieces of equipment out treating the roads to make them passable. We're told interstates and primaries are in fairly, quote, good shape. VDOT saying they are now concentrating on getting into more of the residential areas.
All right, Tisha, so what should people do, though, if they have concerns about the snow on their neighborhood streets? I know originally they said we got to wait till all the snow stops before you can call for assistance. So what are they saying now?
Well, you know, VDOT says first and foremost, they say to check VDOT's website and make sure that your neighborhood streets are, in fact, covered by the Virginia Department of Transportation. They also say they are working on it, so they're asking for plenty of patience, and they want residents to be prepared for those icy spots that could occur due to the deep freeze and refreeze. And if there's still an issue, of course, contact VDOT. Coming up in 5 and 6, we are going to share their strategy for all of this, at least in the coming days.
All right. We can always use more strategy, Tisha. And thank you so much. Stay safe out there.
And we're keeping an eye on things in Maryland. Monday snow having lingering impacts there. Fox 5's Bob Barnard is live in Silver Spring, continuing our team coverage. Hey, Bob.
Hey there, Shamari. If you've been out and about, you'll see the major roadways have been treated, plowed, and are fairly well clear. You can see pavement. But this is a typical site here in Montgomery County. In fact, officials tell us about a quarter of all the streets in the county have not been touched yet. These neighborhood streets still covered in snow on this day 2 of this season's first big snowfall. It's all hands on deck today as brothers Leo and Ellis Tillman help clear their family's driveway. Father Seth is removing Monday's snow from their idled cars.
Yeah, we feel lucky because we got a all-wheel drive car, so we're going to try and make it down to the sledding hill today. Yeah, you know, it'd be great if the plows came. It'd be great if MCPS opened up tomorrow.
The Tillman Silver Spring Street is one of many Montgomery County roadways that at this point still hadn't seen a snowplow.
My street was not touched at all. I don't know what's the method to their madness, but I wish they would have cleaned my street. Please come and clean it. So I had extra work today.
The untreated street's a nuisance for delivery drivers and others who need to be out here.
Our street didn't get plowed until like 8:30 last night, and so it's still pretty icy. This is my first time out all day. My kids are driving me crazy.
Yes, it's another day of no school throughout the state of Maryland. As the kids have another fun day, their parents are wondering what tomorrow will bring. What about another snow day? What are you hoping for tomorrow?
Maybe a 2-hour delay.
But school?
Yeah, hopefully.
People getting out for the first time this week now bracing for the forecast of perhaps more snow in the coming days, complicating matters for the snow removal teams.
It's been a challenging storm, even though the snow accumulations weren't that much. The temperatures were very cold, and the precipitation was very persistent yesterday. So we kept having to retreat and replow areas on our emergency routes, which caused us to be a little bit slower in getting to residential streets than we had wanted.
Montgomery County's DOT Director Chris Conklin says he expects the treating and plowing of all residential streets should be completed this evening or overnight. In the meantime, adventurous souls like Mark Ombre are taking advantage of the unplowed roadways.
I live in Woodside Park and ski out the door and ski back and keep, save the shoveling for some other time.
And the county's Mr. Conklin says if you live out in the rural areas and those roadways have been treated and plowed, be careful. Because of this wind, there are snow drifts which are covering some of the streets that they've already gotten to. And alas, yes, despite what people were hoping all day today, or at least the parents, Montgomery County Public Schools are closed for the third day. Again tomorrow, guys.
Thank you, Bob. Yeah, I was concerned about kids out at the bus stops tomorrow. I'm glad that the schools are closed. You can stay on top of closures and the forecast on our new Fox Local app. If you haven't downloaded the app yet, pull out your phone right now. There is the QR code. You can scan it. That'll lead you to download it for your smartphone.
A wild and tragic case out of the district to report. Now, 2 dogs allegedly electrocuted on a northwest sidewalk have died. The exact cause of the electrocution still under investigation, but Pepco's blocked off a portion of 19th Street. This is crews' work to resolve the issue. MPD officers say that a dog owner reported the incident around 7:30 last night. Sadly, that dog died on the scene. Officers were then alerted to a similar shock incident just hours before that resulted in another dog's death.
That's just really terrible, and the city should be looking out for stuff like that. And I just feel for the dog owners. I'm a dog owner, so I can't imagine the pain that they're going through.
Fox 5 reached out to Pepco for answers, and we are still waiting to hear back, but we will follow up.
This evening, former President Jimmy Carter is back in the district for the final time. Services today started with a ceremony at Joint Base Andrews. Wheels touched down at 2:15. The ceremony lasted around 30 minutes. Dozens of Carter's family members were there. They were escorted by motorcade to the U.S. Navy Memorial, where he was transferred over.
And we want to take you live now back to the U.S. Capitol here for our live coverage where the procession will soon move to the Capitol Plaza, into the Capitol Plaza. The late president will soon be carried into the Capitol Rotunda, where members of Congress and Vice President Kamala Harris will pay their respects during an upcoming service. Our Tom Fitzgerald has that all covered for us coming up in a live report at 4:30. Stay with us as the U.S. prepares to say goodbye to former President Jimmy Carter. Our live coverage continues right after this.
Can you hear me? Hi, mic check. Thank you. Sorry. All right, everybody, we're talking about what is trending here. Of course, let's get to all of that. A big day, of course, across the nation's capital. But also, we're talking about, European grocery shopping method. What is that method? I'll tell you here in a second as soon as I get some of that information.
Yeah, I think it's actually, okay, you know how a lot of people like to buy in bulk? They go to Costco, they're like, oh, I'm going to buy enough to last me for the month. I believe that the idea here, the way the Euros do it, is like you buy only what you can carry. So you buy what you're going to, you plan to eat.
Fresh.
And this reminds me of my sister lived in Germany, because I remember she'd go and she was like, okay, I'm just going to get enough bread.
Yeah.
I'm going to get enough meat from the farmer to eat fresh. And then I'll go back out and do that again. But I mean, honestly, my whole thing is like, who has the time?
I know, but they live a different life there, Angie. And I think, some people would say that's the way to do it. Why are you hoarding all kinds of things at your house? Your fridge is full, and then you still end up back at the grocery store. This is how my mom does it, and I used to always get very upset because we'd be doing a tour to groceries every single day. Nobody's got time for that, Mom, but I guess some say the Europeans are doing it the best.
But then what it's instilled in you, Marina, is I don't know somebody who loves the grocery store more.
This is true.
Like, you look forward to going going down there aisle by aisle. I mean, I'll go to Target aisle by aisle because it's therapy, right?
No,
I just
not
want
the
to go
same.
there in peace and go up and down the aisle and have
People
nobody
do that
bother
with
me.
home goods.
I just want to see like where the cheeses are coming from, like the stinkiest, smelliest thing from
Right.
the Loire Valley. That's what I want. So I'm
She's
looking
like
for
the
those
one
things.
sniffing the stuff in the aisle.
Maybe
You
they
know,
do
like
it
it's
best.
a fine wine.
I don't know.
Checking the legs.
Well, there
Yeah,
you go.
no.
Okay, let's also talk about something that has some mixed reviews here, and it's Chick-fil-A customers. They recently announced that it made a quite slight adjustment to its waffle fries. Oh, don't do that. The new recipe
Leave it alone.
uses pea starch. Apparently, the change makes them stay crispier longer. I will say, Chick-fil-A fries, they pretty soon go soggy.
Yeah, they
but
go
anyways,
soggy
many people
like
say the
10
new
minutes.
fries don't taste the same. When you mess with taste, you're messing with a lot. You know, it's like a pie. Like 50% is taste, the other 50 is crispiness. But if you're messing with the taste, that's the whole fry. I'd rather a soggy fry, Shamari, than a bad tasting fry.
But here's the deal. I can't count how many times I'll buy Chick-fil-A fries from my daughter. By the time I get home, they're soggy. So when it comes to those fries, you eat them right away.
Yeah, that's why I always eat
Right.
all the fries that I buy from my daughter before I get there, because I'm like, you don't want the soggy fries. No. Honestly, this might be an unpopular opinion. Don't send me emails, but
Okay.
I don't think they taste good. I don't think I like
Really?
Chick-fil-A. I don't think their fries are good.
But if you put the Chick-fil-A sauce on it, it tastes good.
Okay, but if you need a sauce, you're doing it wrong, Shamari.
Okay.
This is the thing. Chick-fil-A's
Exactly.
got to call McDonald's and be like, what are you putting on your fries? Because McDonald's fries, they stay crispy way longer than...
Honestly, the
I'd say
original
Burger
recipe
fries.
of the Burger King fry, where it almost had this layer of salt on it, had great texture before they changed
Now
it.
this is where you and I are different. The connoisseur of all things fast food, Angie Goff,
Yes.
y'all,
Well,
come to her.
It is a draw between me and Jim Locate. We both
That's true.
I know,
kind
you
of
got
like,
common thread there. That's
yeah,
good to see.
King of the hill.
All right, Marina. I
got
often go to Reagan National Airport and I get my Chick-fil-A when I'm about to board a plane. And that's where we're taking a live picture here where they measured just over 6 inches of snow yesterday. My mother was supposed to fly in yesterday. Then it was today. I don't know what's going on. She'll get here by next year,
It's
2026.
such a different scene today because, of course, last night we reported that they were at a ground stop here at Reagan National.
Right.
The snow removal crews, we saw them working all night in our live Fox 5 sky cams. As they did that snow removal, they also did everything they could to prevent it from refreezing. We're talking about the airfield, which is so important during these times. We know people have places to go, but safety always
And you have to
first.
watch out for the black ice as well because that refreeze is serious.
It looks like airport's back up and running, though.
Yes.
Doing well today, which is good.
And they're catching up on their cancellations and delays.
Yeah, and they are. And that always happens with winter storms. So good to see that, you know, they did the right thing. They shut down when they needed to last night. No one was going anywhere anyways. Back open, de-icing, business as usual with the sun shining today. Now, of course, lasting impacts into today, and it sounds like tomorrow too with the schools. This is a stubborn cold pattern, so have patience. It's going to take a while for any of this snow to melt. In fact, we could have more snow on top of this snow before anything truly melts. 35 degrees at Reagan National this afternoon, mostly sunny skies. 32 at Dulles, 34 at BWI. The camera's shaking. It's still pretty gusty out there. Those winds picked up in the wake of our storm system last night, and it will remain pretty breezy even through tomorrow. So gusting to 32 at Gaithersburg, 25 Annapolis, 21 in Leonardtown, 26 at Dulles, and 30 in Winchester. Just a few lake effect snow showers over Pittsburgh and central West Virginia. We have seen dry conditions today. We've seen a little bit of melting. Temperatures got slightly above freezing here in D.C., and that sun does help. But anything that melts, of course, subject to refreeze very quickly this evening as temperatures plummet. A cold night tonight, and there is no shortage of cold air as we go into tomorrow. Temperatures will probably be even lower for daytime highs compared to today because we've got more cloud cover rolling in and a reinforcing shot of Arctic air as we head into Thursday. So the combination of the wind and cold, not a good one to be outside. Tonight, wind chills quickly fall into the teens and single digits. Same thing for tomorrow morning, and they don't really climb out of the teens all day. So pretty bitter for Wednesday. Thursday, even more so. Thursday is our coldest day of the week, and it will be paired with some wind. So look at these wind chills below 0 north and west Thursday morning. You're going to have a tough time convincing kids to be at the bus stop on day 4, Thursday. And it doesn't really get much better even as we head into Friday. Very cold. So that's the wind chill. The temperatures staying very low as well as we head into the weekend. Possibly a little more snow to end the work week and head into the weekend. I'll have more on that in my full 7-day. Shamari?
Thank you, Caitlin. Still to come, all eyes are on Loudoun County, the special election underway there, and what it could signal for the rest of the country. And it's election day for a few people in Loudoun County. Polls close at 7 p.m. for two special elections that could determine control of the Virginia House and Senate.
We'll have more of that coming up.
I don't know.
Hello, check 1 2 3 4. Test 1 2 1.
Welcome back. It's election day for a few areas in Loudoun County. Polls close at 7 p.m. for two special elections that could determine control of the Virginia House and Senate. Fox 5's David Kaplan is live at the South Riding Town Hall. David, walk us through the implications here.
Yeah, Shamari, definitely will in a second. This is a special election. Lower turnout sometimes is expected. At last check, Loudoun County reported about 11% total turnout. As you can see, a couple people walking in and out behind me, but it's been relatively quiet. You talked about and asked me about sort of the implications. I want to show you a graphic to sort of walk you through this. There are two special elections, one for the House, one for the Senate, both here in Loudoun County. Democrats currently have a 50-49 advantage in the House. If the Democrat wins here, it'll be 51-49. If the Republican wins, becomes 50-50, likely forcing some sort of power sharing agreement. So that's significant. Democrats also currently have a 20-19 advantage in the Senate. If the Democrat wins, it becomes 21-19. If the Republican wins, 20-20, but Republican Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears could break most ties. We asked most voters what brought them out today.
I'm just trying to stay in track and stay on top of everything in Loudoun County, so we have somewhat of a voice.
Not really, just your right to vote, no matter who you vote for. It's never that. It's the thing that so many people died for, worked hard for, just to have that right to do, because a lot of people don't have that right.
So certainly a civic duty component to this. Virginia always gets a close eye after a presidential election year because it always selects a new governor the year after a presidential election, and it's widely viewed as a litmus test on the current president. And while that will be more magnified in 2025 since the state swung 4 points towards President-elect Trump, Loudoun County swung 9 points towards Trump. Michael Pope covers all things Richmond for Virginia Public Radio. Upsets can happen, especially in a lower turnout election. He also points to data that shows that both Democrats have the advantage given the makeup of these districts, but parties will be looking at any tea leaves, especially in terms of the margin today, that they can.
Definitely there is a way to read these special elections as getting a sense of what the temperature of the voters are, what the pulse of the state is. And so, I mean, it's probably fair to read into the election results a little bit of a sense of where the voters are heading into this critical key election year.
And just to close out with some context here, the Virginia Public Access Project sort of tracks voter trends in Virginia. For both this Senate and House district, Vice President Kamala Harris won them by a little over 20 points. Certainly where these final races fall as it relates to that margin, certainly something we'll be paying attention to. Fox 5 will have the latest results on these elections tonight at 10 after the polls close at 7. Guys.
All right. Thank you, David.
And here on Fox 5, we continue to remember late President Jimmy Carter.
Our Tom Fitzgerald is live on the Hill tonight as the former president's body arrives in Washington. Fitz?
Hey, good evening. Just moments ago, the horse-drawn casket brought here to the United States Capitol. Here's a live look at some folks that have lined up for the ceremony of the 39th President of the United States. Live coverage of the late President Jimmy Carter continues here on Fox 5 right after this.
And happening right now, this minute, the United States Capitol taking a central role in the funeral for former President Jimmy Carter. This as we take a live look at the ceremony that is underway right now.
This afternoon, Fox 5's Tom Fitzgerald is live on the Hill tonight. Fitz, you've been talking to some of the people down there today, hoping to pay their respects to the former president, who many regard as the man of the people.
It's really been remarkable to hear some of these conversations, not only from the people who were alive at the time Jimmy Carter was president between 1976 and 1980, but then subsequent generations of young people who you really would not at first glance think that they had a personal connection to Jimmy Carter. But, you know, his long life and his long post-presidency, humanitarian service, efforts like Habitat for the Humanity, building homes for the homeless, his efforts around the globe, not only for political human rights, but, you know, election freedom for people. It made an impact on generations of Americans, and that's what we're hearing from a lot of the folks today. The scene you're looking at on screen right now, this is the east front of the United States Capitol. There's symbolic kind of a full circle moment going on here right now, because when Jimmy Carter's casket is brought by this military honor guard up these steps in just a few minutes, Jimmy Carter was the last president to be inaugurated as president of the United States on these very steps in January of 1977. Following that inauguration, Congress decided to move the inaugural ceremonies, which we're going to see again in a couple of weeks, over to the west front of the United States Capitol. So, you know, really Jimmy Carter now completes this circle of his life of nearly 50 years from almost the moment when he assumed the presidency to now returning to the very spot where he's about to pass over, where he raised his hand and took the oath of office with Chief Justice at the time, Warren Burger, in January of 1976. I can tell you the weather is similar to that day. Washington was very cold in January of 1977. There was snow on the ground. If you ever look at any old footage of President Carter and former First Lady Rosalind Carter working up the parade route on Pennsylvania Avenue, you'll see scenes very similar to what we are witnessing right now. This horse-drawn caisson is brought by the United States Army, which is based at Fort Myer over in Virginia. This is the caisson which you often see rendering funeral honors over at Arlington National Cemetery. There are remnants of previous presidential funerals that you have seen today, the riderless horse, the honor guard. But by and large, everything you are looking at right now in this very moment was planned by Jimmy Carter himself. One of the presidential traditions is that presidents plan their own funerals. And certainly with his long 100 years of life, I can tell you I've spoken to some people at the Military District of Washington, generations of them who have now worked with President Jimmy Carter on this plan since he left office in 1980. And they have told me that Carter was very involved in this planning. Not only all of the pageantry that you're seeing right now, but as we head into the later part of this week, his imprint will be especially felt on the religious aspects of this when we head over to the Washington National Cathedral on Thursday for the funeral service there. A lot of the people who were down here today say, you know, Washington is a city of history, it is a city of politics, and it is a city that was made for moments like this, where despite the political differences that may erupt in generationally between Democrats and Republicans, and we have certainly had that over recent years, and certainly Jimmy Carter had those when he was president, this is a moment when the nation's capital, the city of the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., stops, watches, reflects, and remembers. Guys?
Fitz, you had also mentioned about Jimmy Carter and humanity. I mean, he advocated for foreign policy that emphasized human rights and democracy, and here at home opposed racial segregation and supported the civil rights movement.
Yeah, and it's a remarkable twist of history to think about the impact of Jimmy Carter's post-presidency. When he ran for president, in the wake of the Watergate scandal that saw Richard Nixon resign and saw Gerald Ford then pardon Richard Nixon, there was a lot of unrest and anger still in the country, not only in Watergate. Remember, Vietnam had just ended. Jimmy Carter arrived on the scene in the early 70s as this smiling peanut farmer governor of Georgia. He was a breath of fresh air politically that really brought the country out of, that downward feeling following Watergate and Vietnam. What happened, though, in his presidency was something quite different. The challenges that befell Carter really brought out a different personality in him. The smile that he was famous for when he was competing for the presidency throughout the primaries, that quickly disappeared. It was met with energy crises, the Iran hostage crisis that lasted for 444 days. And then, at one point, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, and Carter had to announce that the U.S. Olympic team was not going to compete in Moscow. There were tough times throughout the presidency of Jimmy Carter, and that smile kind of disappeared for a while. It reemerged after he left the White House. The old Jimmy Carter came back. The smile returned, and he dedicated himself to a life that, he couldn't possibly have imagined when he was the governor and a state legislator in Georgia. He became something larger than a president. He became a force for global good. And, if anybody's going to write their own obituary, have somebody speak about them fondly after they're gone, a force for global good probably isn't a bad thing to have people say about you.
Yeah, and he talked about that openly after leaving office, Fitz. He said, look, I think I have, 25 years left here. Let me use the influence and the platform that I have to go out there, globetrot, make peace deals, monitor elections. That was the kind of work that he dedicated his life to. As we look at this flag-draped casket, we talk about how he, as a president, like the presidents before him that have passed on, have had a hand in what this day will look like. We know that his faith is going to shine through. He chose the hymns, he chose the scriptures. No matter what side of the aisle you're on, regardless, it's the commander-in-chief. It has to be done right. This is part of our tradition. This is part of the process. But we talk a lot about his military service and how unique that relationship was, because he was not only an officer, but then he became commander-in-chief. And when he was in office, this nuclear engineer, he prioritized diplomacy over military action, which also drew some criticism. But in the end, would really lay the groundwork of working together with allies.
And after Watergate in Vietnam, when he stepped into office, he wanted to restore faith in government. And as I was mentioning, with his humility, he wanted to bring that to the Oval Office. And you can see that with the funeral procession as well.
And you talked about the east side of the Capitol, Fitz, and I know he shared a story when he was promoting one of his books, this was years ago, where he talked about how his mother kept him humble. And they were on those steps.
It's true.
And there were tons of reporters, and their people around them were saying, don't talk to the reporters. And she's like, I'm going to do whatever I want.
Exactly.
And they said, are you proud of your son today? And she responded, which one?
I can tell you, Lillian Carter was a force of nature. For those who may remember her, it was not a normal thing to have a presidential mother on the scene. And oh, what a presidential mother Lillian Carter was. She was, definitely proud of her son, his achievements, but, you're right. She kept him rooted in the person he was, and the person he was the person the nation turned to, when they needed a change of pace from everything that had befallen the country over the late 60s and the early 70s. So, it's always great to have a strong mother. I can speak to that from personal experience.
Yes.
But Lillian Carter, if you've never had a chance to see her in action, get over and try to watch her in action, because she really was a special person, and she was something to behold when Carter was in the White House.
She definitely kept him grounded. Fitz, how long does the planning for these funerals go on for?
This one probably longer than any in history, Shamari, because, as you know, Jimmy Carter has been out of office for 49 years, going on 50. So he has had, roughly half a century to plan all of this. This starts when a president is in the White House. The Military District of Washington maintains funeral teams for all former presidents. Those teams meet regularly, not only with the former president, but with the former president's staff. They go over what has been passed what is present and what could be the future, how these presidents want to be remembered, the symbolism they want to portray to the country that would represent not only what their vision of the country was, but what the vision of their own presidency was. So, we saw that on display here just today. Look at how this day unfolded. The centerpiece of Carter's world was the Carter Center in Atlanta, Georgia. That is where he laid in repose for the last several days. That was the launching point of a lot of the global efforts for the Carter Center, and he in particular. Then the casket was flown up here on a plane that many people recognize normally as Air Force One. In fact, that designation only is lent to the aircraft once the president, the active president of the United States, is on board. So today, that aircraft, which everybody recognizes as Air Force One, was actually called by the United States Air Force SAM 39. That stands for Special Air Mission 39. 39, of course, being Jimmy Carter being the 39th president of the United States. And then that transfer over at the Navy Memorial today. We had heard the admiral who now runs that facility say that it was President Carter in 1980 who signed the legislation that actually created the Navy Memorial and the Visitor Center that is down beneath it. If you've not had an opportunity to go down there, they will have a condolence book that will be eventually handed over to the Carter family, which people can sign and then write their own memories about President Carter. And, that procession also included midshipmen for the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, and that certainly as well was a very important part of Jimmy Carter's life.
And Fitz, we know that 3 days of state funeral rites, they begin today, this before his casket is returned to his home state of Georgia, where he will be laid to rest next to the love of his life, Rosalind. So going forward, we know that lawmakers tonight, along with Vice President Kamala Harris, will be there to pay their respects there in the Rotunda.
And Mayor Bowser as well.
Yes, but as far as the public is concerned, what do we know about those that want to come down there? We see people lined up, showing, paying their respects right now, but what do people need to know?
Well, we should remember, when we learned President Carter had passed away last week, it wasn't necessarily a given right away that the public was going to be able to participate in this. Look, we had questions about how yesterday was going to go on January 6th with the certification of the election and the 4th anniversary of the riot here on the Capitol. There is a steel fence that has been put up around the entire circumference of the Capitol campus. And as you know, we are clearly getting ready for a presidential inauguration in the next couple of days. Jimmy Carter was a man of the people. People are going to be part of this. Starting around 7:30 tonight, they'll be able to file into the rotunda, walk past the casket, and render their own tributes.
All right. Thank you so much, Fitz. And our coverage continues of the funeral of late President Jimmy Carter when Fox 5 returns. Welcome back to our live coverage of the funeral of our 39th President, Jimmy Carter. We know the flag-draped casket is waiting there right in front of the Capitol steps. Family members of Carter have just arrived. Shortly, they will proceed into the rotunda, where there will be a ceremony that happens where leaders from both sides of the political aisle will be there to honor Mr. Carter. And we know that Vice President Harris will also share some words.
And security is definitely heightened there. Tom, what can people expect in terms of security?
It's an important question, Shamara, because we spoke with the chief of the U.S. Capitol Police Department, Tom Manger, just the other day, and what he had told us was that they do want people to participate in this. They do want folks to come down to the Capitol to, not be concerned about their ability to get in here. But there are a couple of things that you need to know if you're going to do this. Number one, there's no parking down here. There is very little place for anybody to put a car. U.S. Capitol Police are asking people, if they do plan to come here to the Capitol to participate in the viewing ceremonies down at the Rotunda, to please use public transportation. Also, there are some restrictions on what people can bring in to the U.S. Capitol. They are not allowing any flowers. They're not allowing any personal items. Certainly no personal physical tributes of any kind are going to be allowed into the Capitol, to be left at President Carter's casket. They're asking people to not bring those to the Capitol building. They will not be allowed to bring them in. Also, there are restrictions on electronic media. They will allow people to bring their cell phone and personal devices into the United States Capitol. However, they are not allowing anyone to take photographs inside the rotunda where President Carter's casket is lying in state, and they are not allowing anybody to do any video recording as well too. Other than that, at about 7:30 tonight, we are expecting they are going to begin opening up the Capitol's Visitor Center underground entrance. That's where they'll begin security screening to allow the public to begin to pass in and start this line forming. Now, as we're here, we've probably got about 100 people right behind us right now that all have told us that they're prepared to stick around here tonight on this first night. But this will not be the only night. Of course, they're going to open up again after they close at midnight tonight at 7 a.m. tomorrow, and then there will be viewing all day on Wednesday as well, of course, as we know, leading up to the funeral at the Washington National Cathedral on Thursday.
And just so people know, the funeral that is happening at the National Cathedral, where we know President Biden will be delivering a eulogy, that is not open to the public, correct?
No, that is only for ticketed invited guests. Typically, presidential state funerals at the Washington National Cathedral are closed. This one will be as well. All living presidents, and we have honors being read now. We can hear the cannons going off. I don't know if we want to take a break for this. Let's listen.
And you can see
There's Nancy
Nancy Pelosi
there.
standing by. We mentioned that lawmakers from both sides will be there to pay their respects, and Vice President Harris expected to speak shortly. This as the body, the flag-draped casket of Jimmy Carter, will lie in state in the rotunda as we continue to honor our 39th president.
Yes, and bringing together every branch of the military, coordinated with many local, state, and federal agencies as well.
Yeah, to really make this ceremony everything that it's supposed to be. We're talking from the cordons to the color guard, to the military band, to the body bearers, doing everything that they can, working with local and federal agencies, every branch of the military, as you mentioned, to make sure that this presidential funeral is executed with precision and utmost respect, Fitz.
All right, we're now going to be joined by Fitz right now. Fitz, go take it over.
We're about to see a rare moment in American politics. Our system of government in this country is comprised of three different branches: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. You saw there just a moment ago members of the United States Supreme Court. The vice president is going to be speaking, congressional leaders. In this moment, all three branches of the United States government coming together in this solemn moment to render honors to the late President Jimmy Carter. What is remarkable about this moment is that it comes smack in the middle of two momentous events in the country's history over the course of these next couple of days. We had the certification of the 2024 presidential election just yesterday, and as you know, a week from yesterday, we will have another presidential inauguration, the 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. People often refer to the United States Senate as the world's most exclusive club because there are only 100 senators. You know, clearly you see here today the reason why the presidency is really the most exclusive club. We've only had 47 presidents in our nearly 150 years of existence as a country. And in this moment, you know, the country comes together not only to remember the presidency of Jimmy Carter, but remember those 4 years in this nation's history. And as we, you know, move through these ceremonies of the next couple of days, we are going to hear countless of stories, not only from people who remember that, but those who weren't around, and it has impacted his life in his volunteerism, service, and global efforts around the world. Right now, we want to pause our coverage in this hour and throw it over to Jim Loke and Marina Morocco.
All right, Fitz, thank you. We continue our coverage here of the farewell of President Jimmy Carter, the 39th president, that Air Mission 39 landing at Joint Base Andrews about 3 hours ago. And since then, we have seen that funeral procession continue its way out to the U.S. Navy Memorial. And now, as we await the 39th president lying in state at the U.S. Capitol.
Yeah, Fitz has done an amazing job of detailing the importance of the Navy Memorial and so much more in what is a symbolic farewell to Jimmy Carter. So we will continue that coverage as it warrants throughout the next hour or so.
All right. In the meantime, of course, we have been covering so much of what happened yesterday, the big snowstorm that covered much of the region, as we take you out live here to the Fox 5 Skycam network. And you can see those snow-covered rooftops. Thankfully, most major thoroughfares and roads have been cleared at this hour. But we are getting word that tomorrow, for a third consecutive day, Montgomery County schools and Loudoun County Public Schools will be closing.
Yeah, the snow definitely sticking to the ground in some areas. And the question is, will there be more? I know areas to the south of here, far south in the Carolinas, they are bracing for some snow coming in later on this week. But you're concerned about what's happening here, and so is Mike Thomas. He is here with a first look at the forecast at 5 o'clock.
Absolutely, and yeah, I've seen a lot of schools making the call for tomorrow here, and I think that's a lot to do, or has a lot to do, with the cold temperatures and the fact that a lot of what's out there, and I have seen a little bit of melting today, well, that's going to freeze pretty solid overnight as those temperatures start dropping. So your parking lots, your sidewalks where the kids are walking, yeah, they're going to get rather slippery during those overnight hours. Did not add any more snow today. Clouds have returned after actually what was a decently sunny afternoon. The final totals did come in. Again, not a record breaker in D.C. 7.2 inches fell. Dulles, you rarely see D.C. getting more snow than Dulles, but we beat Dulles by 2 inches here in Washington. 5.1 for them. Baltimore, 6.5 inches of snow. Now 7.2. That's actually enough to be the third most out of a single storm in the last 10 years here in Washington. So impressive numbers all across the area. Some areas down to the southeast and even the eastern shore wound up with anywhere from 10 to 12 inches of snowfall out of that system. Quieter day today, cold day. D.C. is above freezing, but most of the rest of the suburbs kind of hanging around the freezing mark. Please watch out for those icy patches tonight. 29 Martinsburg, 27 for Cumberland. We take a look at satellite and radar. Do see some snow flurries off to the north and to the west, but quiet here in Washington, and should remain quiet, just cold through the remainder of the evening here. Temperature temperatures falling back below freezing tonight. More on maybe that later this week snow chance coming up here in just a few more minutes. Jim?
All right, so we mentioned about Montgomery County schools being off again tomorrow for a third straight day in a row. But of course, across Montgomery County, Monday snow is having some lingering impacts and across the state as well.
And that is likely why we'll see those decisions. Fox 5's Bob Barnard live in Silver Spring, continuing our team coverage tonight. Bob?
Hey there, Marina and Jim. You can understand the decision-making within MCPS. If you look behind me here, the county says something like 25% of the neighborhood streets throughout this county still have not been touched by plows. It's very slippery. It would be difficult for kids to get from their homes to bus stops or buses to get up hills like this. So that's why no more school tomorrow here in Montgomery County. It's all hands on deck today as brothers Leo and Ellis Tillman help clear their family's driveway. Father Seth is removing Monday's snow from their idled cars.
Yeah, we feel lucky because we got a all-wheel drive car, so we're going to try and make it down to the sledding hill today. Yeah, you know, it'd be great if the plows came. It'd be great if MCPS opened up tomorrow.
The Tillman Silver Spring Street is one of many Montgomery County roadways that at this point still hadn't seen a snowplow.
My street was not touched at all. I don't know what's the method to their madness, but I wish they would have cleaned my street. Please come and clean it. So I had extra work today.
The untreated street's a nuisance for delivery drivers and others who need to be out here.
Because it's kind of making it difficult for us to get those deliveries done.
Our street didn't get plowed until like 8:30 last night, and so it's still pretty icy. This is my first time out all day. My kids are driving me crazy.
Yes, it's another day of no school throughout the state of Maryland. And for MCPS, tomorrow will be day 3 schools are closed. It's been tough for adults as well.
It's tough because between work and this big of a driveway, it's hard to get it all done. So, yeah, it's not that encouraging to hear more's on its way.
Montgomery County's DOT Director Chris Conklin says he expects the treating and plowing of all residential streets should be completed this evening or overnight.
It's been a challenging storm, even though the snow accumulations weren't that much. The temperatures were very cold and the precipitation was very persistent yesterday. So we kept having to retreat and replow areas on our emergency routes, which caused us to be a little bit slower in getting to residential streets than we had wanted.
In the meantime, adventurous souls like Mark Ombre are taking advantage of the unplowed roadways.
I live in Woodside Park and ski out the door and ski back and keep, save the shoveling for some other time.
Yet those like Mark who still haven't dug out may want to get going. More snow is forecasted in the coming days, guys.
All right, Bob, thank you. And flights, yes, flights, they're getting back on schedule after the snowfall yesterday. We saw Reagan National suspend operations to try and get their runways operational again. Many of those planes grounded in the region. This is the latest from FlightAware's Misery map. And you can see there's a lot more green at this hour than there was certainly yesterday across all 3 local airports. At this hour, 93 delays and 17 cancellations. And of course, you can stay on top of all those school closures. And we will have more on the forecast for this weekend, which we could see some snow yet again. Download that Fox 5 app. We are just hearing that Fairfax County Public Schools has also closed tomorrow. So we'll continue to stay on top of that as we continue here on Fox 5.
And the other big story of the day we've been following for you, services honoring the late President Jimmy Carter underway. A live look right now at the Capitol where those continue. His casket arrived today at Joint Base Andrews, his body flown from Georgia where a funeral procession began on Saturday. Lili Zhang is live at Joint Base Andrews tonight with more.
Hey, Jim, good evening to you. The ceremony at Joint Base Andrews was somber in honor of the former president. It lasted about half an hour. Now, wheels touched down just after 2 o'clock this afternoon. Special Air Mission 39 arrived this afternoon when President Carter's remains were transferred during a ceremony to a hearse. The ceremony included members of his family. They, along with President Carter's remains, were then transported by motorcade to the U.S. Navy Memorial. Some of the morning and early afternoon afternoon were spent clearing the runway of snow and ice. We spoke with an Air Force commander who says the ceremonial aspect, it takes nearly 3,000 people to organize an event like this. It included several forces from across multiple services, and behind the scenes, he says there were many more service members who have been involved in support roles.
Those soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine, Guardians, Coast Guardsmen, they represent the best that our nation has to offer. And those service members know and believe and understand that it is not only an obligation to come out here and to conduct these honors, but a true privilege.
Now, after the national funeral service on Thursday, President Carter and his family will return here to Joint Base Andrews before that final journey home to Georgia. Guys.
And thank you, Lily. Keep it right here on Fox 5. Later this hour, we'll have much more coverage on today's services in D.C. for President Carter as he now lies in state. A wild situation out of D.C. where two dogs allegedly electrocuted on a D.C. sidewalk. They have died. Our Sharon Rajet has been following this case. She joins us live tonight with those details. Sharon.
Yeah, Marina, it is so crazy and so devastating. And frankly, the people that owe us answers as to what happened here are not returning our phone calls. But as you can see behind me, Pepco is out here. Their workers have been out here on 19th Street, the 1100 block of 19th Street, working in these bitter cold conditions to resolve the issue. Now, one source told me the sidewalk may have been electrified yesterday due to an underground cable issue. But again, Pepco has not confirmed a cause. What we do know is that around 4 p.m. Monday, a man and his dog were walking right here on 19th Street when suddenly the dog started acting erratically. A man that I spoke with, a total stranger who actually heard the dog's cries, ran down from the 5th floor of his office building to help, only to feel the electric shocks himself. Take a listen.
All of a sudden, his dog started yelping and howling and jumping and writhing. And I could hear it from my office, so I was looking out the window, and I assumed that the animal had salt on his paws. So I came down with a thing of water, and I was going to help clean the paws. But at that point, the dog wasn't moving. And I bent down and felt something sharp in my hand. And it happened again when I was trying to feel for the pulse of the dog. And then when it happened a third time, all of a sudden it dawned on me, oh my God, there's current in the ground.
Just so wild. Dr. Stern says that the dog was a yellow lab mix named Chili, who sadly died after being rushed to the hospital. D.C. police say hours later, around 7:30 last night, another dog owner called saying their dog was electrocuted right here in the same place. Sadly, that boxer died on scene. Two incidents that are raising safety concerns.
I had no idea this happens. Of course, yesterday it was very wet, and there was a lot of salt on the ground, and a lot of snow. But luckily, since downtown was essentially closed, there were very few people, very few dogs, so it probably could have been a lot worse.
Now, there was a big response to this. DC Fire and EMS came out. MPD came out. Pepco is still out here working. But they're not giving us answers as to exactly what caused this. And was this a isolated incident or a bigger issue? We'll wait to get more answers and bring those to you. Guys?
All right, Sharon, thank you. New executive actions from the White House ahead of Trump's inauguration on the 20th. We'll tell you what's in motion. First, David Kaplan standing by live. A look at his story for us tonight here at 5 o'clock. David?
Jim, good evening to you. A special election, two of them actually, here in Loudoun County. Two particular districts are open with seats. The majority of both the House and Senate could be at stake here. We'll explain what's going on and how this is all going in a minute.
Welcome back. It is Election Day in parts of Loudoun County. Two special elections, a House and a Senate seat each up for grabs as the Virginia legislature gears up for its 2025 session. David Kaplan live outside one of the polling places tonight, and we're talking about control of both chambers that is theoretically at stake here.
Yeah, Jim, we are. I want to be clear here. If you look at some of the 2024 presidential voting data for these two particular districts, the Democrats have the advantage here. Vice President Kamala Harris won each of these districts by over 20 points. However, a lower turnout election, right now the Loudoun County Elections Office says we're at about 13% total. Combined with the weather, you just don't know what could happen. That said, regardless of the outcome, the margins are definitely going to have politics watchers' attention here for both of these elections. Virginia always gets a lot of attention because it elects a new governor the year after the country elects a president, who it chooses a litmus test of sorts. And these two special elections are on the heels of a presidential election that saw Virginia swing 4 points to Donald Trump and Loudoun County swing 9 points towards Trump.
I was very shocked, so I'm amazed that it went that far towards Trump. I think it's going to go back to the way it was and go a little bit more Democratic.
Did you follow all the sort of implications of your vote today?
I did. Not going to go into it too much, but, you know, as I said, the most motivating factor is our right, and those that came before me to give me that right is the most motivating factor for me to get out and vote.
As for what's at stake here, Democrats have a one-seat majority in the House and the Senate. If the Democrat wins both these races today, they keep their majorities. If the Republican wins the House goes 50-50 with a power-sharing agreement likely in Richmond. If the Republican wins the Senate, it goes to 2020 with Republican Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears likely breaking critical ties for Republicans. Take a listen to Virginia Public Radio reporter Michael Pope, who covers all things Richmond.
Because it is the first election since November, it's easy to sort of read it as a response to the election or the next steps or how the Democrats are feeling or how the Republicans are feeling. I would caution against that, though, because of the partisan lean of both of these districts.
Polls close at 7. We'll stay ahead of results and have the very latest tonight on Fox 5 at 10. Guys.
All right, David, thank you much. We'll keep our eyes on that for you there and also on the Final Five.
Yeah, and David was really in the thick of it yesterday down in Leonardtown and St. Mary's County. And Mike, I mean, I think the roads for the most part are doing good. But of course, you look at the snow just about everywhere still piling up, and what's to come?
Right. I will say, like my neighborhood streets, the major roads are much, much better today. But still some of those side roads, those neighborhood side streets, I was going to show you a beautiful sunset. But we'll go ahead and go back to the temperatures. But yeah, side streets in a lot of spots are still quite tricky. 33 degrees D.C., Dulles sitting at 31, Baltimore sitting at 32 degrees. Overnight tonight, temperatures will tank back into the teens in a lot of spots. 18 Gaithersburg, 18 Hagerstown, 20 there for Cumberland, 22 Quantico, 20 for Leonardtown. I know we're getting more and more school systems, so they're starting to call it at this point. A lot of the reason why is because of the snow melting away and then likely refreezing on a lot of those parking lots, those sidewalks. Tricky situation for some of the schools to call for your Wednesday here in D.C. As we look out on satellite and radar, not adding any more snow today. Now, a lucky few north and west may see an occasional snow flurry come down from the Great Lakes, but no large system bringing you accumulating snow tonight. We're done with that at least for the next few days here in Washington. You do see some of the clouds from the Midwest trying to filter on in. That's why skies have gone a little cloudy today. Cold air just continues to dump in out of Canada here. Breezy conditions. You likely felt the gusty winds this morning. The breezes are going to remain for the better part of the remainder of the work week here in D.C. So those cold temperatures will feel even colder every time the wind kicks up. Highs tomorrow, probably even colder than today. A lot of us won't make it out of the 20s. D.C. may touch 30, 31 degrees. It's going to be a cold day on Wednesday here in Washington. 30 for a high. Thursday, high of only 28 degrees. Plentiful sunshine, but deceptive sunshine there for Thursday. With all the events around President Carter's funeral here, just plan on it being extremely cold in the district as we head through the end of the work week. The rest of the week into the weekend, cold. And then guess what? As we get into next week, cold gets reinforced yet again. So this persistent cold pattern just doesn't look like it wants to let up. There is a little bit of a wave in between, and that's your next shot at some snow here in Washington. Would come on the front edge of the coming weekend. There is likely going to be a storm in the south. In fact, they're preparing for some snow as far south as Dallas, not somewhere you see often get snowfall. A couple of different models for you. Of course, the GFS has been a little bit aggressive with snow here for the last few days. It is still showing the potential for, I would say, out of this model, anywhere between 3 to 6 inches if this model's right. Problem? Well, the other model isn't quite agreeing with it. It still has snow. This is the European for you, which tends to be the model a lot of forecasters lean on. It has light snow, but not quite as much. There's not as much juice in that system. So that's kind of showing an inch or two for the D.C. region before the storm heads off instead of turning north. That's the key. If the storm ends up turning north, you can get more snow here in Washington. If it heads out to sea, you're going to get less snow. But both do show a shot at some snow to kick off the weekend. So that's what we're tracking for you. Marina?
Mike, thank you. President Biden has just 2 weeks left in office, but he's not going out quietly. The White House announcing a wave of executive actions today, including banning drilling and mining on more than 800,000 acres of federal land, a new rule that bans medical debt from appearing on credit reports, and the transfer of 11 Guantanamo Bay detainees to Oman.
Typically, anything done through executive action can be undone through executive action. Is it going to take some time? Absolutely.
The Biden administration also reportedly negotiating with the Taliban to exchange Americans detained in Afghanistan for a high-profile Gitmo prisoner. Still ahead here at 5, health officials now confirming the first human death linked to bird flu in the country.
And we have new details on the explosion outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. AI played a role in the plot. We'll explain more at 6.
Yes, I can. Tisha's mic check. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Tisha's mic check.
Welcome back. The World Health Organization says the risk of catching bird flu is still low despite the first U.S. death. The patient died Monday in Louisiana after being diagnosed. He allegedly had underlying health conditions, but was also exposed to backyard chickens and wild birds, which are the main carriers of the disease.
Where we're seeing most of the movement from animal to human, but we're not seeing sustained circulation.
Over the past year, the CDC has confirmed more than 65 cases of bird flu nationwide, 37 of them in California.
And the FDA is setting new guidelines for lead levels in baby food. Data shows lead may cause developmental and neurological issues. The lead limit is set to 10 parts per billion in most processed foods, and this applies to those sold in jars, pouches, and tubs for children under 2.
All right, still to come, we continue our coverage of former President Jimmy Carter's casket's arrival in the nation's capital.
But first, let's check in with Tisha Lewis and what she's working on tonight. Hey, Tisha.
Hi there, Marina and Jim. The road conditions depend on where you're driving. Some residents in the neighborhoods across the Commonwealth have some questions and concerns about the plowing in the neighborhoods. We will explain when we're back. Stay with us.
Oh, that's right. 5:30 or head nods. I forgot. Here.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Are you?
Welcome back here upon 5:30. We're going to get to some of our top headlines tonight. Our Tom Fitzgerald on Capitol Hill tonight as the public looks to pay their respects to former President Jimmy Carter, the casket now lying in state.
Yeah, but our snow coverage continues. Tisha is in Lorton, Virginia. And Tisha, we know you're in Lorton, Virginia. Fairfax County is closed tomorrow. We just got word that Prince George's County schools are closed tomorrow. But let's talk about what you're seeing in Virginia right now.
Yeah, you know, we're here in Lorton and Fairfax County, as you mentioned, Jim and Marina, and this is just one of several neighborhoods across the Commonwealth where there is snow still blanketing the roadway, aside from some spots that were exposed to the sunlight a little bit earlier today. We had a chance to get out and about and speak with some residents, and some of those residents telling us that they've seen one plow truck come through the neighborhood, and that was yesterday, even though we did see another one, so that'll be two a little bit earlier today. But even so, they say more might be needed at this point.
They came by once yesterday to plow. They haven't been back by since the snowfall last night, though. So I don't know if we'll be able to get out tomorrow morning for work. So
we'll see.
Hopefully they come back.
I think on the main streets, they did a pretty good job because I was on there and they looked like they were treated really well. It's only in the local streets, the smaller streets, that, you know, they could probably, I get it. And it's a big snowstorm and they have to work their way through it.
There you go. And again, we did just see one plow truck come through Lindsay DeLue and David Coe's neighborhood. Even so, it's a tale of three stories. Road conditions, depending on where you are driving. Highways and major roadways are clear for the most part. Residential areas appear to be hit or miss. The residents we spoke with all say they saw a plow truck work its way through the neighborhood yesterday, but they have not seen one since. The Virginia Department of Transportation telling us as of early this morning, they still had more than 2,700 pieces of equipment out treating roads to make them passable. We're told interstates and primaries are in fairly, quote, good shape. VDOT says they are now concentrating on getting into more of those residential areas. Here's their strategy.
We're still just hitting hard the secondary roads that, you know, need that second touch up or a few additional passes, but also the residential areas as well. For instance, my neighborhood this morning, I saw a couple plows going down and actually spreading some sand on there for traction as well, just to make the roads continue to be a little bit more passable.
And VDOT says they also want residents to be prepared for those icy spots in the cases of the thaw and then refreeze. And of course, if you have any questions and if there's an issue, if you feel like your neighborhood and area has been untouched, VDOT says to call them and make sure that they are in fact responsible for clearing your roadway.
All right, Tisha, thank you. Tonight, the United States Capitol, the focal point for former President Jimmy Carter's funeral. A live look inside the Capitol Rotunda behind me here, as later tonight, the public will be allowed to pay their final respects in person. Fox 5's Tom Fitzgerald on the Hill. You've been there throughout the afternoon awaiting this processional, that caisson finally making its way into the Rotunda. Fitz?
Yeah, we just witnessed a truly stirring moment here. A lot of the people who came down here to the Capitol to witness this just now say that, you know, Jimmy Carter's public persona as a president and as a former president was as a man of the people. So they find it very fitting that people are going to be a big part of these funeral services here in Washington over the next couple of days. Just in the last hour, a remarkable scene. Take a look at the video from earlier today. The president's casket was brought into the United States Capitol by that horse-drawn carriage brought by the Military District of Washington's Old Guard, and it was then carried up the east front steps of the Capitol into the United States Rotunda. Where it is resting right now is on a piece of wood that was fashioned into a casket holding carrier for President Abraham Lincoln. It has been used for presidential funerals and other large funerals ever since. Tonight, there is a ceremony going on momentarily inside the Capitol's Rotunda for members of Congress, members of the United States Supreme Court, and Vice President Kamala Harris is in attendance. Later this evening at approximately 7:30, the public will be allowed to enter the U.S. Capitol, walk past the casket, and render their own honors. A lot of the people out here on the street tonight tell Fox 5 they admire President Jimmy Carter's presidency, but what they really remember is his nearly half-century of service in his post-presidency.
Certainly one of the more important figures as far as I'm concerned. Just an admirable person, just completely admirable.
Always been proud of all the work he's done here at home in the U.S. and abroad.
Oh, absolutely wonderful man. You know, I volunteer with Habitat for Humanity, so he's kind of led a lot of us in that direction.
A lot of memories from folks young and old. about former President Carter. A live look inside right now of the flag-draped casket in the center of the rotunda tonight. U.S. Capitol Police have asked us to tell you that if you're planning on coming down to the Capitol to take part in this public viewing, there's a few things you need to know. You will have to pass through security in the Capitol's Visitor Center. No electronic devices are going to be allowed to be left on. No video recording or pictures are going to be allowed. No personal mementos like flowers are going to be allowed to be left. They are also asking everyone to please use Metro or public transportation. The closest stations, Union Station and South Capitol Street. We want to remind you at home, if you would like to continue to watch Fox 5 coverage, you can simply go over to our Fox Local app and we will have it for you there. We're live on the Hill tonight. We'll send it back into you.
And the Navy was always a big part of President Carter's life. He graduated from the Naval Academy back in 1946. He was stationed in Norfolk aboard the USS Wyoming, an older battleship used for testing new electronics and gunnery equipment. In 1952, he was promoted to lieutenant and was selected to be part of a program to create nuclear-powered submarines. But while president, he authorized the construction of the U.S. Navy Memorial on Pennsylvania Avenue, where the funeral procession stopped today for a transfer ceremony.
I don't think we can understate how much time he and the family spent into the details to make sure that he would be appropriately honored, but in a way that was special to him, and that really carried forth that special bond that he had and will always have with the U.S. Navy.
Yeah. President Carter left the Navy in 1953 to go back to his native Georgia when his father became sick and eventually died. In 1961, Mr. Carter transferred to the retired reserve with the rank of lieutenant at his own request. Still to come here at 5, a major earthquake in Tibet. We have more on the search and rescue operations underway.
And the debate over cell phones in the classroom continues. What one lawmaker is now pushing for when we come back.
More stories we're following for you. A powerful earthquake has killed more than 120 people in Tibet. The 7.1 magnitude quake was centered about 50 miles from Mount Everest and struck around 9 a.m. local time, injuring 200 more and damaging more than 1,000 homes. Rescue crews are on site to look for those who are missing. 2 people dead after being found inside the landing gear of a JetBlue plane on Monday night. The flight left JFK Airport, landed at Fort Lauderdale, Florida. A spokesperson for the airline says the 2 people were found during a routine post-flight maintenance check. No word on the names of the people, and police are still investigating.
And a federal judge blocking the public release of special counsel Jack Smith's report on investigations into President-elect Donald Trump. It comes after special counsel Smith says his team is finalizing a 2-volume report on its investigations into President-elect Trump. Trump's defense attorney is trying to block the report from being made public. 1 volume could be released as early as Friday. Another federal judge ruling Rudy Giuliani is in contempt of court. The ruling in connection to his defamation case, the former New York City mayor and Trump ally owes 2 Georgia election workers nearly $150 million. He was convicted of falsely accusing them of tampering with election ballots in 2020. Yesterday, the judge ruled Giuliani failed to turn over assets. Still ahead here at 5, another snow day for many in D.C. We'll tell you how some are celebrating.
And a dispute in Prince George's County shutting down several bus stops near a senior apartment building. We have those details at 6, but let's talk more snow. Here's Caitlin.
Why not, Jim? We have yet to even recover from yesterday, and we're on to our next chance. It's true, maybe a little bit of snow coming this weekend. But in the meantime, a lot of cold air before we get there. We'll have your full 7-day forecast after the break.
Watch out, oh, watch out, oh, watch out, yeah. That's my shot, that's my shot, that's my shot, yeah.
Hello. Okie dokie. Mic check, 1, 2.
She's coming over. Test 1, 2, 3.
It has been the talk of school systems in states all across the country. Now, Maryland looking to ban cell phones from classrooms this session. Katie Barlow is standing by in the newsroom now with who is pushing for this ban and why. Katie?
Well, on the heels of Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin issuing an executive order on cell phone-free learning in the Commonwealth's classrooms, now Maryland delegate Adrienne Boafo is introducing legislation to ban students from using cell phones in school. Boafo hails from Prince George's County, where the council recently passed a unanimous resolution encouraging PGPS to institute procedures to ban students from using cell phones during school hours. The Maryland Phone-Free Schools Act would double down on Prince George's County's efforts, making it mandatory for students to put cell phones away during classroom time.
A constituent of mine who's a teacher at Duval High School, and she said, you know, she went to school here in the county. She wanted to teach in the county ever since we were young, and one day over the summer she said, you know, I'm done teaching, and I asked her why, and she said no one's paying attention.
It would also put Maryland in line with 8 other states, including Virginia, that have banned or restricted the use of cell phones in the classroom. Educators cheered the proposal, saying cell phones not only diminish focus and hinder performance, but also contribute to cyberbullying and loneliness among students. If passed, the law would take effect during the 2026-2027 school year, giving students, families, and schools time to prepare for this sea change. Maryland Senator Ron Watson will cross-file the same bill in the Senate, making it more likely to get a final vote in both houses. And for those worried about being able to get in touch with their kids while at school in an emergency, there are allowances in the bill granted to approve for education purposes, student health considerations, and school emergencies.
Thank you, Katie. Time now 5:46. Here's a live look outside over Frederick. Still looks frozen over out there, and it probably will continue as we will likely get to those below freezing temps here shortly.
Yeah, it was good to see some of the snow melting, but of course we get that slushy mess that happens after a snowfall.
Boy, it gets dirty really quickly,
Yeah.
doesn't it? It's really a shame. Let's get some fresh powder on top of that, shouldn't we? Crickets. Oh, I know. I am a lonely one in that camp. Top 5 snowfalls in the last decade. Would you believe it? But yesterday's snowfall, which came in tax, title, and tip at 7.2 inches at Reagan National, was our 3rd biggest snowfall in the past 10 years. That's how much of a snow drought we've been in. We surpassed the last one that we were talking about, 2022, when we hit 6.9 inches. So this is the most that we've had in 5 years. You have to go back to 2019. The last time we had more, 10.2 inches. And of course, the famous blizzard of 2016 continues to live on in infamy, 17.8 inches, one of the biggest storms ever here in Washington, D.C. Not close to that, but we are at least getting closer to being in more of a snowy winter-like pattern. The cold is here to stay. Stubborn cold, hard to dislodge and move out this week. We're going to have one below normal day after another, reinforced by that snowpack on the ground. Today's high hit just 35 degrees, which is 10 degrees below normal. Our low temperature was 22, so that's kind of what we're looking at going forward. Lows in the teens and 20s, highs only in the 30s, and just barely above freezing. In fact, tomorrow I don't even think we will get to the freezing mark due to some cloud cover moving in. Right now, upper 20s and low 30s. It's been windy today, which of course makes it feel colder. Also makes it a little tough out there. It blows that snow around on the ground. 37-mile-an-hour wind gusts currently at Reagan, 33 at BWI. Many of us pretty blustery this evening, and that is giving us wind chill values in the teens to low 20s. So bitter cold into tonight. Satellite and radar is quiet. Lake effect snow showers are well off to our north and west, and we'll have clear skies overnight, falling back to a low temperature of 21. It's still kind of breezy tomorrow as that cold air is reinforced for another day. Cloud cover will aid to that cold feeling, as we won't really see much sun, unfortunately, and so we won't really have much melting with temperatures below freezing all day and not even a strong sun angle to contend with. So not going to see much improvement tomorrow. Thursday will be the coldest yet. High temperature of just 28 degrees. So we are really in the deep freeze through the rest of the work week. Melting is minimal, and the refreeze will occur every night. Departure from normal map shows this is way below where we should be for this time of year, and nothing really relinquishes it through the rest of the week. You see all that blue on the map, so nationwide talking about some very cold temperatures. So when you stay this cold, it's easy for the precipitation moving in to become snow, and that's what we're looking at as we head into the weekend. A storm coming out of the Gulf is a little bit more of an open wave than a tightly packed low pressure system. But at this point, both the European and the American model showing an area of snow late Friday night into Saturday morning. The European, pretty weak, only delivers about an inch or two area wide. The American, slightly more juiced, a little bit stronger, and maybe a couple of inches we're talking about. This is not a big storm. This is certainly not a blizzard, but it could add some additional snowfall to what will likely still be a snowpack on the ground Saturday morning. I don't know why it wouldn't be. It's not going anywhere when you're looking at these temperatures. So there's your 7-day, very cold through Friday, but dry. Late Friday night, we could have some snow showers in here. That chance for snow remains on Saturday, and then we'll still be pretty chilly in the wake of that as we get some sunshine back on Sunday. That is your 7-day. Marina, back over to you.
All right. Thank you, Caitlin. Another day for D.C. Public Schools closed, but you'll get no complaints from some students. With all the snow that we got, they're making good use on their second off day. Gwen Talbert with more. You've been on the hills with the kids for the past 2 days. A lot of places with no school tomorrow, Gwen, so who knows for tomorrow. But today they're having a good time still.
Oh, I'm telling you. Oh, you're absolutely right. They had a great time out here. I mean, it's dark now, and a lot of them have started to head out, but there are still a few that are kind of still around here. And I mean, even so, with the temperatures today, it's really been cold out here, in the 30s with wind chill values, feeling like it's in the 20s or the teens. But for some reason, the generation of kids, that doesn't even bother them at all. We've got some video to show you what it was like earlier here on this hill. Take a look. They were coming down in full force. Lots of fun from them right across the entire area, as you can see. And I mean, you can hear the excitement. Listen to their voices. They weren't paying any attention to the cold at all. They were just having a great time. And from the plastic sliders to the, I think they're called the boogie boards, all the way to the tubes and the donuts. It didn't make a difference. The kids were just out here. Families were all out here with them as well, supporting them. And a few parents who were kind of standing around saying, well, this is great family time. And a few parents that said, you know what? This has been a full day. All right, back out here live talking about a full day. I've got some family members that are here. This is Adam and this is Julia. Thanks for being with us. Julia, I want to know about the fun you had today.
I had fun sledding, and I made a fort / wall.
So you had a good time being off from school?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about that, the kids being off?
Yeah, it was hard a little bit here and there. Maybe too much video games, but we definitely got a lot of fun snow time in as well. The hill out here was nice and fast today. A little hard on the bottom, but overall good.
All right. And Gabriel, I want to know about your fun today. You've been here with your friend.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the fun you had.
So earlier, me and my friend Lucas went to shovel driveways.
Oh, wow.
And we made $145 in total.
Well, you're a little business person going on here. That's great. Yeah. But what about the fun you had out here sledding? Was it good?
Yeah.
It was worth it?
Yeah, we had 2 sleds. We each took turns. There's one that went really well and the one that sprayed snow in our faces.
Okay.
But it was still fun altogether.
All right. And Jim, what about you thinking about this weather?
It's been a great 2 days. The snow's been beautiful. Of course, we had to shovel the cars out and all that, but we're having fun too out here. It's chilly out here, but we're having a great time.
All right, and that's what it's all about, fun on the snow days. You can't beat that. I think they've got a few more runs that they're going to do before the night is over. Guys, back to you.
All right, Gwen.
Gwen, thank you. Transportation analytics company INRIX out with a report on the most congested cities in the country. We're number 9. The district 9th on that list. The report says the average D.C. driver lost 62 hours sitting in traffic last year. That equals to a loss of over $1,000. But it's actually a 2% improvement over the year before. The report found D.C. only one of 4 U.S. cities that saw a decrease in traffic.
Apple agreeing to pay $95 million, settling a class action lawsuit accusing the company of turning its virtual assistant Siri into a snoop. Information then allegedly sold to third parties to use in targeted advertising. In a statement, Apple says it is only settling the case to avoid litigation. It denies any wrongdoing. And the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau suing a division of Warren Buffett's real estate company. The agency claims a unit of Berkshire Hathaway pushed home buyers into accepting unaffordable loans. The Bureau says many borrowers were slapped slapped with penalties and late fees when they fell behind and even had to file for bankruptcy or even had their homes repossessed.
All right, so to come, why your future posts on Meta platforms may not be fact-checked.
Plus, a baby hippo in Virginia. It's got a new name. We'll tell you all about it when we come back.
I got check. Can I have the mic check? 1, 2, 3.
Hey there, Michelle. We are here in Silver Spring tonight, out in the snow. Thank you.
Golf level, golf level. Hi, mic check 1, 2, 3. Check, check, check. I did not know that.
Back now with 5 things you need to know. Tractor-trailer crash on I-370 this morning causing a tie-up there. It happened just before 8 on the westbound lanes near Maryland State Route 355. This is Montgomery County. It blocked 2 lanes on the exit ramp. Unclear if icy conditions caused the crash. No word on injuries.
Getty Images is buying Shutterstock to create a $3.7 billion visual content company. The announcement comes as companies face more competition from AI-generated pictures. The companies say they have complementary portfolios and that the merger will provide a better product for their customers.
Meta replacing its fact-checking program with Community Notes. The program relies on users to fact-check and flag information. Meta CEO says their previous approach was censoring too much content and says the changes are partially influenced by political events, including the presidential election.
McDonald's, the latest company to pull back on some of its diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. The company says it plans to no longer set specific goals to increase diversity in senior roles. The chain also plans to hold a program that encourages suppliers to come up with diversity training.
And it's official. Virginia Zoo finally announcing the name of its baby pygmy hippo. The Richmond Zoo newbie has been named Poppy. More than 100,000 people from across the world casting their vote, naming the female hippo. Pygmy hippo.
It could be a hippie. Poppy's a hippie.
Another name tossed around. Hammy May did not make the cut. Poppy winning with more than half the vote.
We'll be back for Like It or Not at 7 o'clock.
Your news continues right now with Angie and Kenneth.
Right now at 6.
Former President Jimmy Carter returns to the district, the 39th Commander-in-Chief's body now lying in state ahead of his funeral at the National Cathedral. The ceremony's held in his honor. The cleanup continues after a massive snowstorm slams the DMV. Another round of winter weather could be on its way. The Fox 5 weather team has a look ahead. And devastating moments for local pet owners. 2 dogs electrocuted on a sidewalk. We're taking you live to the scene as your news at 6 starts now.